Hi there, I'm Ed Bell, and in this video we're talking about structure in songwriting. All art is a balance between unity and variety. If a work of art is too unified, like a song that repeated the same note non-stop for 3 minutes, things can get boring pretty quickly. But if a work of art is too varied, like a song that never repeated anything, it can end up a confusing mess. Structure, the way a song's sections repeat and fit together, is about finding this balance. There are lots of different types of structure a song can take, but today we're going to talk about the structure that's by far the most common in genres like pop, rock and country music, verse-chorus structure. Here's what the most common archetypal version of verse-chorus structure looks like. This is a great go-to structure if you're just starting out, so let's see how it's put together and how you can vary this basic form. So at the heart of a verse-chorus structure are two alternating sections. You guessed it, one is the verse and one is the chorus. The verse is where you set the scene and establish the tone of your song and start telling its story. It's also a kind of appetizer for the chorus building up and into it. The chorus is where the song really hits. It's where you express the main idea of your song. It's usually the biggest section musically, and as we'll find out in the next video, it's where the hook normally goes. Often there are 2 or 3 verse-chorus cycles, but sometimes 4, 5 or more. The verses usually all have the same melody but different lyrics. The choruses usually have exactly the same melody and lyric, maybe with minor variations. Alternating verses and choruses can get predictable after a while, so it's common after the second verse-chorus cycle to go to a section called the bridge, or sometimes the release or the middle 8. The bridge is an opportunity to mix things up a bit. The music is usually totally new and the lyric takes a different angle. Maybe it looks into the past or the future, or it becomes more philosophical somehow. It's an escape, a diversion, or a departure. It creates a sense of anticipation for when the chorus kicks in again and we're back in a familiar place, hearing a familiar message for the last time. Usually the bridge happens instead of a third verse. This is the structure we started out with, but sometimes a third verse is still in there, maybe as a shortened version just before the last chorus. This basic pattern can be livened up in a few different ways. Some songs open with an intro, an instrumental section at the beginning, or a preview version of the chorus that functions as an introduction. Some songs have an outro or ending. Sometimes it's an extension of the last chorus or just a repeat and fade. Sometimes an instrumental section takes the place of the bridge, or maybe there's an instrumental and a vocal bridge too. In some songs, the verse and chorus are separated by a dedicated transitional section called a pre-chorus or climb, which builds in intensity and energy into the chorus. So there's the theory. You've seen that verse-chorus structure isn't just a formula. There are lots of different variations based on a few key principles. The exact combination you choose depends on the kind of song you're trying to write and what sections you need to say what you're trying to say. In fact, half the trick in a verse-chorus structure is understanding the kinds of material that work well in a verse versus in a chorus, and the kind of twists you can use to make a bridge if you decide to include one. As always, the best way to understand how these principles work in real life is to take apart the songs you love. What are the sections? What function do they play in the larger design of the song? Why might the songwriter have chosen this particular structure over others? This will help you understand how structure works in practice. There's much more about structure, including other common songwriting structures in The Art of Songwriting, our ebook. Thanks for watching.